Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be looking at the next promo character, who is going to be S Class Shaquille. And visually, I instantly was just like, this guy's memeing, basically. It looks like a cross between so many different characters, like Van Damme in pretty much every single movie he was in, you know, like it's giving that vibe. I don't know what it would be like, 80s, 90s hero, or I don't know, even maybe villain, like the Terminator sort of look, if I'm honest, when it comes to Shaquille here. Visually is giving that look, and yeah, I mean, I don't know much else to say. He's got the, I guess, Rambo as well, with the marks on the face to stop the, I guess is that to stop reflection? I think it's meant to stop reflection from hitting your eyes. But yeah, not much to say about the visuals. Very like 80s-esque visuals for me. If we look at the avatar on the left-hand side, we see him without the sunglasses, so you do get the no sunglasses look for the avatar. And with 30 veteran rings, he has 5,384 attack, 3,526 defense, and 3,589 HP. So while he is considered a damage dealer, his attack isn't like super high. It is around the same sort of region as S Class Priya, but we have seen some really high damage dealers come out in recent times. So we'll have to wait and see the sort of damage he does on his rush, if it is a percentage damage rush. Now, he is an alert character that is an SMG is holding in his hand. I don't mind him holding it with one hand in this case versus how Callie was holding it, just because he's not like just holding it out like a pistol 24/7. It's a little bit more tilting with Callie. And as we go across to the rush, it is called Slam Dunk. It is a 76 AP cost rush. Deal 3 attacks for 400% damage, which is obviously 1200% total, to one enemy. One enemy gets confused for 4 turns. All teammates get 100% infection resistance for 2 turns. Now, there's 3 parts to this, but realistically there could only be 2. The damage, if it takes down somebody with those 3 separate hits, you can take down 3 characters. 400% isn't massive, but his base stat is reasonable enough that you could get him up to easily 18,000 damage on the right attack team, and that is going to be a lot of damage output. He will be obviously good as a finisher, because if someone's partly, damaged already, he'll be able to take them out, then move on to the next character with the rest of his attacks. The downside of that, obviously, he can be hit with like stun on defense, impair on defense. He can be hit with this. Only hard control will stop him mid-rush, so like stun. Whereas impair, he will get impaired, but he will continue to finish his rush, because effectively his rushes started, so they will be finished. Now, the confuse may not work if he takes down the character that he initially targets. We'll test this out. It is a very, very powerful confuse. If it does confuse someone, regardless of if he takes people down or not, then it's awesome. If it doesn't confuse people, if he takes down the first character he attacks, then it's not as powerful, obviously. All teammates get 100% infection resistance for 2 turns is pretty much what you see on the tin. It works exactly like Nick's active skill, however it is going to be attached to Shaquille's rush, which is going to be a bit slower to get off, obviously. Nick is turn 1, whereas this is just generally going to be a turn 2 command or a turn 3 natural. Okay, so we're just going to check out the mechanics and how his rush works. We're going to take down someone we're guaranteed to take down, just to see how the confuse works on the rush. And we do take down 1, 2, and 3. But unfortunately, the third character that is hit isn't the character that is confused, and neither of any of the other surviving characters. However, if we do this on Pete himself, he will get confused if he isn't taken out. I've had to put an extremely defensive weapon in Shaquille's hands here, because his damage is so high otherwise that he would take him out. I tested out like 4 times, took him out every time. So I basically just put like a 50% defense weapon in his hands, just to stop him from doing so much damage. And we're coming up against that Pete that's fully modded right now, and Shaquille has got nothing. So the damage output of Shaquille is great. He will do enough damage if you do his weapon properly. But if you do take down the first character on his rush, nobody gets confused at the moment. That might be something they change, because they do have it where with Michonne's rush, when you take someone down, 2 extra characters get confused. And I think that will most likely get changed when it comes to the confused, because of the way the order of operations happen here. it does make out the one enemy gets confused after all the damage is said and done, so I think this is going to be edited. The all teammates get 100% infection resistance for 2 turns. You saw that happen, but effectively it is actually only a 1-turn resistance, because the turn is applied to your team is one of the 2 turns. The 1 turn that it goes to the enemy team, they would get 1 hit at it, and then it'll come back to you, and then it'll be disappearing at the end of that turn. So effectively, it's only going to stop your enemy from being able to affect you for 1 turn, because that's how it works when it comes to buffs. Everything only really works for about a turn less than it actually says it does. However, still a very powerful damage dealing rush, and if the confuse part of this is upgraded, so that it actually does confuse a character for 4 turns, regardless if it is the character that's taken out or not, it will obviously be buffed up massively. A 4-turn confuse against a defense team is nuts, and not many teams do have confuse resist. I think it's going to be like down about the 3rd most common resist type, although we are seeing people do it a bit more often because of the likes of Brutus, but I don't think you're going to necessarily be attacking the same sort of teams with Shaquille that you would Brutus. So it may be actually very effective against those sort of defense teams. We will move on to his active, and it is attack up, impair resistance, and AP gain. It has an initial cooldown of turn 1, cooldown of 4, number of uses 5, so very different sort of cooldowns that we normally see. This character and up to 2 teammates get 75% and 100% impair resistance for 2 turns. This character gains 50% AP. So the character gaining 75% attack and 100% impair resistance for 2 turns, this particular character, Shaquille, that's only going to be a 1-turn buff. That's only going to affect their next turn, because the current turn, again, just like that buff before, one of those turns is the turn he's going to be buffing himself. The character getting 50% AP is very powerful, obviously. That does mean that if he did it turn 2, and I would say turn 2 would be best, he'd be getting a 75% attack boost on his rush on turn 3. If you do it turn 1, you'll get a 75% attack boost for your basic attack, and then your rush on turn 3 would just not have anything boosted. Unless you plan to actually command Shaquille, he wouldn't be obviously getting that attack boost in that situation. Another teammate would for 2 turns, but again, exactly the same situation. If you do it on turn 2, it would actually affect their turn 3, which is the normal natural rush turn. So we come to turn 2, and I can do Shaquille's active. It will give him a boost. He will take a bit of exhaust damage because he has been exhausted by Lao Po, and this is something that he will face, and it will be an issue for him. I could command him right now, or I could see who else it went to. It went to Alpha, and you know what? I want to command her more, because I know she's going to put the defense down on the other enemies, and that means that I'm going to be able to follow up with Shaquille on these 3 remaining characters on the defense team. So I will rush, and we'll see the sort of damage output he could potentially do. And he's hitting for huge amounts of damage, 9k, 13k. This is with defense down. He hasn't got any boosts here. Like I said, his weapon is not upgraded. He has not got any mods. The only boost he's getting currently is his weapon boost from Eren. And just with the weapon boost, you can see he gets up to 11,000 attack stat with max vet rings. So he can easily get higher if he's got a 1535 in his hands. If he's got a 1535 in the space next to him, it's going to be boosted drastically higher with the attack mods on top. And you saw the effectiveness of that active skill. It does give you the obvious decision that you've got to make. Do I command Shaquille himself or the teammate that got the buff, if you want to command someone at all? In that situation, it was beneficial because commanding Alpha early is generally a good idea. She's going to take someone out. She's going to do defense down on the remaining characters. It is quite useful a lot of the time to do that, especially if you're coming up against, you know, very powerful characters that can go off the next turn. You know, I took out the command because I knew there was like 3 or 4 characters there that would have been commanded the next turn for sure. And I also assumed there would be a secondary takedown come in just because of that defense down and the 75% attack on top from Shaquille's buff. So it is a nice little bonus if you are going to team up Shaquille with the likes of a defense down character just like Alpha. You did see Shaquille run into a little bit of a problem though when it came to exhaust, and that will be a massive issue against teams with Marge in it, which is kind of disappointing honestly, because I think Shaquille would have been quite a good character to take on Marge with the attack boost and everything on top. But there's no way to get AP when you do your active without getting AP bonuses like 50%. So the only way you can get around it is if you have like maim or exhaust resist on Shaquille, if you do want to get that active off in the first 3 turns, because Marge's lead skill is of course 800 exhaust for 3 turns, which is obviously going to be devastating for the likes of Shaquille. Lastly, on his main kit, we'll check out his specialist skill, and you've probably noticed that he was actually taking people out and he was decapping them, and it's because of his specialist skill, which is beheading. When this character takes down an enemy, that enemy cannot be revived. When this character attacks an enemy that has 20% or less HP, the enemy will be taken down immediately, and that is because beheading is a combination of both decap and execution. So it is a really powerful specialist skill. It does mean that basic attacks on someone who's got, let's say, 20,000 HP, someone like Callie for instance, if you do a basic attack on her when she's got 4,000 HP, it's a guaranteed decap at that point. Guaranteed. And that's just a basic attack. So there's a little bit of a potential combat in there for high HP characters. But regardless, just because of the fact that Shaquille is a damage dealing character means that his rush and his basic attacks, any takedowns that he gets, will not be able to get revived, which does help a lot. So just to show again from turn 1, if you are lucky enough to take someone out first turn, they are of course decapped. You can see the marker over their body, that means they cannot be picked up. We'll go again, and we'll try and take out the last 2 here. I think we're only going to be able to take out 1. And we'll see. The revive will come in, but as you see, nobody's got revived. And that's purely because of that specialist skill. So a specialist skill, that is never a bad thing to have in a percentage damage dealer's hand, someone who is going to get those takedowns, just because revives are a big thing for defense teams and they can be extremely powerful. Even if someone's not really running any particular revive characters, they could have, let's say, a Command Rick. That active will still pick someone up and it will still slow you down, and this will stop that from being as much of an issue. Now you may have noticed in that last little test to show the specialist skill, when I did attack Pete Anderson, he was doing trait damage as an alert character to Pete Anderson. Shaquille's Violent CZ is a 30% attack weapon, a medium bonus to AP when attacking is the upgrade slot, but the last slot, when attacking, a 100% chance to attack with a stronger trait. This will work with his multi-hit rush. As you saw, the multi-hits were hitting trait damage, and that kind of means that Shaquille can be used against any team and he'll get trait bonus because of that. He would normally only be able to get that against strong characters. He's guaranteed to get it against everybody because it's a 100% chance to attack with a stronger trait. So I'm going to attack exactly the same little team again, and you can see I'm going to attack a tough character and I should do fast damage. As you saw, fast trait damage come up. And now I'm going to attack an alert character. It should be tough. And then I will just command, and it should be, on this one, it should be alert. And then if it goes to any of the other ones, it should be tough, basically. So you'll see alert pop up here. Alert damage, tough damage, more tough damage. And obviously because of the decaps coming in, there's the no revives again. So that's the bonuses it's going to bring in with that sort of potential. And obviously it's just bigger damage output because of that. On top of this, of course, his attacks can crit on his rush. So you could build someone who does a lot of individual damage that does a lot of crit damage as well. So if I just put a little bit of effort into the attack team I could make with Shaquille, I can get him up to 18,500 damage without too much of a problem at all. This is with just offensive mods, maxing out his weapon to just be offensive. He's got 48% attack on his weapon. And basically, you're going to be able to get that attack stat up to 20,000 if you get a platinum mod. So it's going to be massive amount of attack output because of this. So here we are on turn 3, natural rush turn. We're just going to pop everything off. Who gets the buff? I think it went to Rick. That's where the issues can come in. It did go to Erin as well, however. I'm going to command Shaquille here, so he does get his rush off. And we're just going to do some hits with Alpha, and we'll see the sort of damage output that he can bring in with the trait damage. 25k guaranteed decap, and the next hit was a double hit. He can obviously crit. If he doesn't crit, well, he's not going to do as much damage. It's pretty much as simple as that. So the weapon is a nice base. You can obviously swap this out. You can go for splash damage, but I think if you wanted to go for a character that did splash damage, there's a character in the game that's already built towards that, and that's Dylan. This character you should be looking at as more of a single target nuke, and he can easily get decaps in because of that specialist skill, which would be very, very beneficial. Overall, I see Shaquille as being that character that is good for someone who doesn't have a huge roster depth, because he can be used on any attack team. As long as he gets leader bonus, he will always do trait damage, and that's really actually quite beneficial. His damage output obviously can be massive because of the active combo that he can get with his rush, because then his rush single hits go from 400% to over 700% per hit. Very, very nice combo there, and the potential damage output of Shaquille could be great. And visually, like I said, he looks like a character from an 80s or like early 90s movie. He just gives me those vibes too much. I think he's a pretty good damage dealer, and if you're someone who's brand new to the game or not got a lot of characters that can do offensive power, he's going to be even more beneficial for you because of that weapon. I think if you're a veteran, he's still going to be adding something to your roster that you don't have already, just because of the fact that he's going to be bringing Decap in. You are going to be coming up against defense teams with the likes of Tanya in them and so on and so forth, and that's going to make those characters less effective. If their rushes don't pick anyone up, it doesn't matter as much if they rush. But that is my first look at Shaquille, guys. He is going to be the next promo S-Class character coming to RTS. Do leave your thoughts in the comments down below. That is going to be the end of my video. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.